younger players, they've actually never even heard of an MMO. Like they don't even know their genre. And that made me feel very old.
Walk with us as we escort you to safety, experience, and the adventure of a lifetime.
All right. Time for us to escort you to experience. Wait. We'll lead you to safety. That's it. Safety, experience, and the adventure of a lifetime. All right. MMORPG.com had an article. The guy was talking about 3 things I wish modern MMOs would do better. The author of the article pointed out 3 different things. One was a handle in-game economies better. Early quests and the rewards need to feel fulfilling. And MMOs need to foster communities, not simply cater to solo players. So, given the fact that all 3 of us have played MMOs for a while, some of the old ones and the new ones, it's like we're sitting here going, okay, 2021 now. Solomon, I'm going to ask you first. So, what do you think that you wish not 3, but what would you wish that modern MMOs would do better? Like, you had this game you really like. If only it had something that was, I don't know, something that you want to change it.
Dang it. This is one of those questions that I need more time to think about. First of all, I would love to see MMOs get rid of servers. I said this multiple times in our shows. I think being separated by servers is just a dinosaur idea. I get it. Like I get there might be some benefits to it, like realm versus realm, but it's just I find it incredibly frustrating that there are so many people that I get to meet online and elsewhere, and we play the same MMO, but we can't play together because we play on separate servers. Not only that, it might not even be separate servers, but also separate what do you call it? Separate continents. Because there's some people that I've met who would play, for example, Black Desert Online, but they play over in Europe, and they have their own complete separate servers because they have their own complete separate publishers or something like that. So I think, and the thing is, and you play games like Fortnite, for example, or Warfare, and they don't. I get that it's a completely different genre and type of game, but they don't suffer from any of that. You want to link up with one of your friends from across the country, you're allowed to do so. And I think that's awesome. So in terms of doing something better, like just get rid of realms, get rid of servers altogether, because it's a product of early 2000 technology, and with the way things are going right now, especially with games like Black Desert Online and Dual Universe and Star Citizen, where in Eve Online, where there is no separate servers, you get to play with everybody that you want. Yeah, that's probably be my number one thing that I would do to improve MMORPGs. Secondly, um I don't have a solution per se, but I see that maybe perhaps there is a something that could be improved upon, and that's catering towards changing demographic. And what I mean by that is when I work, I work with a lot of young people, actually, a lot of young nurses, because I work in a biotech facility, I guess you could say. And one of the things is that I've noticed that a lot of these younger players, they've actually never even heard of an MMO. Like they don't even know their genre. And that made me feel very old. And I'm like, well, have you heard of like World of Warcraft? And they're like, oh yeah, Warcraft. Like, no, no, no. Warcraft is an RTS. Have you heard of World of Warcraft? And they're like, I think so.
Wow.
So I think the MMORPG genre has to, or not has to. Let me put it differently. I think the MMORPG genre needs to adapt in order to survive. Um, and I think that we've seen that slightly a little bit with online co-op RPGs. Like I think I don't know what would be a good example of that. Maybe Borderlands, maybe, or Destiny. technically a lot of people like to equate Destiny with an MMO, but it's not technically an MMO, not with our traditional definition of the sense. But yeah, I don't know. Like I certainly am not asking like say World of Warcraft become a BR all of a sudden, because that's that's the genre right now is battle royales, because again all those young nurses that I've talked to, like that's all they play is Warzone and Fortnite and stuff like that. Like of course they've heard of those games and that's all they play. Um so yeah, again, that's why I circle back to what I said earlier about not knowing the solution. How should they adapt? What kind of different things what can an MMO do to cater towards a changing demographic, or not changing demographic, or try to cater towards a younger demographic without without changing so much that it's not recognizable as an MMORPG anymore. So that's why that second part is something that I need to think about a little bit more. Um, Third, I don't know. Third, I think I will go back to what you mentioned earlier, Kennethan. The article mentioned was trying to cater a better community, because I think a lot of us who've been playing MMOs for a while, which is all of us here on this show, we still have relationships and very fond memories that we still have today, because we were very involved in the community that we were part of in those MMORPGs. And I could honestly say that I haven't really made that connection with the more recent MMORPGs. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily a bad thing, because um maybe that's something that you don't really want. Maybe that's not something that you really look for these days in an MMORPG. I think that might be certainly the case with me. So you guys would probably have to answer that on your own. But yeah, in terms of games, like in terms of like fostering and community and having really deep, meaningful relationships and stuff like that, if that's something that you look for. Sorry, I spat all over my keyboard. Um, yeah, that's not something that really happens in modern MMORPGs for me. And that's not to say it doesn't happen for other people, but uh I agree with that statement that a lot of MMORPGs are catering more towards single player content and players right now. And I think Star Wars: The Old Republic is definitely a an offender of that. ESO, I will probably put that in there too. So yeah, those would be my three
Oh,
things.
that's well said. The what got me also, like, we've seen some of the games trying to do something like that. VSO, I think, is one world, but you see that WoW has different servers, but you actually literally can play across servers these days. But that's all right. That's a good point. That's an antiquated system that I know that WoW tried to fix it up. Blizzard tried to fix it up with WoW Classic, the layers. Okay, so people were all on the same server and we layer it up. But you can kind of cross play with your friends sometimes, but cross servers. I mean, I did it with SirJahzeal and with Got Fuzz, and that's the way to do it. But you still feel like you're not in the same. Unless you do that partnering up, you're not actually in the same. You're not going to run across each other in the same world. So yeah, that'd be good. For me as a streamer, one thing I'm going to point out before I go to SirJahzeal is the fact that I like the fact what's called streamer integration, because as my son points out to me, I'm a stream leveler. I do not level up the same speed as other people do, except because I'm constantly like maybe a third of my time engaging with chat. So I'm paused. I'm paused and I'm not streaming. I'm not gaining XP for that. And so I would like to have. I knew New World being a part of an Amazon Game Studio. There has been talk about having Twitch integration. We haven't seen it yet, but that would be kind of cool. So that's my thing. So that's one of my things. So SirJahzeal, about you? What do you think would be three things, if you have three things that you want to see modern MMOs do better or change?
Well, it's going to sound kind of like an echo chamber in here, unfortunately, but I completely agree that we need to just get to an era where, or change things to where there aren't literally hundreds of servers to choose from in the larger MMOs and maybe, dozens in the smaller ones. that does seem to be a factor in when I meet someone through a Discord group or used to be via social media, but as you guys noticed, I haven't really been on Facebook and Twitch and whatnot lately. But it used to be that I would mention something about that I got a mount or that I beat a dungeon or whatever, or that I was playing the game with Fuzz and Slick and Ken and Steve or whoever else. And someone else would, whisper me and say, "Oh, you play too?" And it'd be someone that I've known for a while, and I'm like, "Yeah, I've been playing forever." And they'd be like, "Oh, I want to play with you." And it's like, "Well, oh, great. What server are you on?" Because there is cross realm play now. But again, I don't think that needs to be there anymore. With the modern technology, it certainly does not. But there is also, as Solomon mentioned, rightly so, on all the MMOs that I play currently, they all have, on top of that, it's a separate layer. Okay, well, we have our US servers, and then we've got separately our Asian servers, and then we've got our Oceanic servers, and then we've got our European servers, and most of them actually even have for Russia, they have their own system there too. So it's like you've got all these different barriers to playing with people, which is going to get to my second point. And I know that there are cross realm in most of the games. In fact, I and both in ESO and World of Warcraft, you can do that. I'm not sure if you can do that in Guild Wars 2, honestly. I don't think you can, but someone might be able to correct me there. But the illusion of we're on two different realms, especially if that person is the only person in the group on that other realm, it does. Maybe it's because I've got OCD and I need things to be neat and tidy and together. But when I find myself being the odd man out, I'm the guy on the other realm. Even though there's cross realm, it makes me think, man, I need to pay that $60 to do a transfer, or I need to just start a new character over there, which is what I initially did when Shadowlands came out, as you know. It just makes you still have that feeling of I'm not with that group. So it would be great to see them get rid of that. Now, as far as regional, I don't know how you would do that necessarily. Technology has got a lot better. Internet connections and speeds have got a lot better, obviously. I'm sure that there are ways to do it without having too terrible of an experience. However, if there's any PvP going on, I certainly would not want to be playing against someone on a different continent. That just usually leads to issues for one or both parties, and it's an awful experience for obvious reasons. So I don't know. I imagine that we can figure that out at some point here, probably in the next 5 years. But that would be the only thing that I would say. Well, I understand the regional stuff, especially if there's language attached to it, as in these are meant for people that speak German or Russian or Chinese or what, or English, what have you. I think there do need to be realms that are dedicated to people that speak whatever language that it is, since we have a wide variety. Leading into that would definitely be we've kind of lost our way. MMOs, as I was saying earlier about Pantheon, coming out of that old school MMO, we went from, if you did not have friends in the game, to play with, you were not going to be playing the game long because there was nothing for you to do. And we went from that to now these games are almost single player.
Right.
Like you can go from minimum to maximum level and never group up with a
Right.
single person. I think
you mentioned that Dark Age of Camelot, right, was definitely got to group up, and it was amazing when someone actually leveled up to 50 solo. It was like one of those things they tried to do it, but can try to do it. That was not made that way. Well, the Warcraft. We had even chatted about that one time when J. Allen Brack had disagreement with the original one of the founders of Blizzard, Mike Morgaine. Mike Morgaine was talking about that the WoW seems to be not as community, or at least working together. Like a community feel, and J. Allen Black was saying, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Like, and yet people out there across the spectrum are like, well, yes, and it isn't. I mean, yes, it's still community driven and all, and it's like you got to get into the game and all, but you just don't feel it's not required to. That's why when you mentioned Pantheon and even some other games, I literally want to go back hard school, and not the hard school the fact to try to make it hard, but trying to be like back to where it literally was an MMO, massive multiplayer online. Okay, I mean, not just it's a MMO online that I can play solo and never have to meet another person at all. My biggest complaint times about Final Fantasy 14 is it forces you to go looking for a group or looking for whatever to finish up your main storyline quest. But guess what? It's forcing you into a group. So that's kind of cool in some respects. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
I think where I'm going with that, though, is not necessarily to go back to that, but to balance it better, to give people the option, more options in an MMO, the better. And again, I think I've tooted this horn before for Elder Scrolls Online, that I think of the ones that I play, they probably do that the best. That there are if you're getting on real late at night, you can't sleep, whatever, and you just want to run around and do some quests and do some solo dungeons and whatnot, yeah, you can do that. Or delves is what they're called in the game. You can do that. And if you want to do the more group-oriented stuff, that's available to you as well. And they seem to get it, that there are different I wouldn't say schools of thought, but different appetites that us MMO players have. Some of us do want to have more solo content, and some of us want to do more grouping content. But I am seeing a lack of grouping content other than, hey, this is the same dungeon that you can do with looking for raid or looking for dungeon, but we're just going to make it harder, by just increasing the damage that it takes to kill those mobs or whatever, instead of like giving you different mechanics and whatnot. But World of Warcraft has improved on that greatly, to where there are, it depends on what level that you're at, but if you're doing Mythic Plus, there's all these different little mechanics and things that you got to watch out for. And it does tend to bring people together because you've got to coordinate with your group mates, or you're not gonna make it. So I see different games getting the different aspects. Now, if we could just get all those together to bring people together like it used to be, that'd be fantastic, because I think the best part of the MMO is the social aspect of it. In building those friendships that, a lot of us nerds and geeks out there don't have a real easy time doing in the real world out here. But we can get in this game and meet these amazing other homebodies, these other introverts, and make some memories, as Solomon was saying, that even though it's in the fantasy world, it's in games, and I'm even remembering just awesome times being around a table and playing Dungeons and Dragons or what have you with friends, and that's just amazing to share life together with people, and not just well, I'm, people at your work or classmates at school or whatever, but, having some fun, playing games together. And I think that's what it's all about. And if they could just put a little more attention on balancing that, yeah, sure, give us some content that we can do single player by ourselves when we, our friends are offline or whatever, but also give us the content that brings us all together. And I really would like to see. I'm going to be speaking of World of Warcraft here specifically, just real quick. One of the things that used to bring people together in guilds was you would get guild perks, and your guild would actually level up as you accomplish different achievements. And they got rid of those a couple of expansions back, to where now there's really no benefits to being in a guild. Whereas, there used to be all kinds of different benefits that you would get from it that actually would make your character more powerful, or give you more options for fighting style and whatnot. And it was just cool. And plus, there was all the gear and whatnot that you could get from it that you still can, but yeah, that's mostly for transmog at this point, I think. But for the third thing, I mean, I know that that article, I believe, had mentioned the economy, and
Yes.
that is something that needs to be fixed. I think they need to be a lot quicker. I mean, everybody knows about these gold farmers and whatnot. It's been going on for over a decade, and they just I don't know what's going on, but they seem to be really slow to get on top of that, and it just ruins the game when you can't properly trade with people because the prices are just so out of hand. The inflation just skyrockets. It's they just print money out of nowhere, and there's no it destroys the games in ways that you don't normally think of. It used to be, I actually had friends. I thought they were weird, but they would play the auction house. That is what they liked to do in World of Warcraft and Elder Scrolls Online as well. And I was like, that's kind of that, man. I'm a nerd, but that's super nerdy. Like, that's like stock market weirdness there, But they enjoyed it. They loved doing that, and they would do that for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, almost like a job. And I never knew what the end game for that was, because it wasn't like me, who liked running dungeons, and the end game was to get better gear and have those bragging rights of, I conquered this boss at the hardest level or what have you. But yeah, it's definitely an issue that probably most of us don't think of, because I think most of us are more into the PvE or PvP aspects of the game and don't really think much. Maybe some of you don't even use the auction houses or the trading systems in your games. You just, what you get is what you get, and you don't go trying to buy it. But for those of us who do, like, try to make a little extra money buying something cheap, selling it for more, or find some cool loot that our character or class cannot use and trying to sell it on there, and it's just, you got all these gold farmers just ruining that experience for you. It has an impact. But that would be my three things.
Yeah, I used to play the auction house. I think back in Lich King, or afterwards, thinking like Pandaria. And it was like kind of cool because you see all the prices of things that were people just dumping on the market, clean them all up, and then go and sell them for what the price would be. And I remember, of course, the biggest thing about getting the money is having enough money to be able to buy other stuff. It's like, this is before housing was even involved. So that's the only thing I thought about. Also, the funness of actually, all right, I got all this gold now. I don't have to worry about gold anymore. So I mentioned earlier my streamer integration, housing building, another one of my things. I like the fact that they have housing in these games. I just don't like the seems to be so hard to. Well, I mean, I just done well enough. It's so hard to actually get your house to be what you want to. It's just basically stock items. I did get a nice fancy house in ESO. There was a, what's it called? It was the whole community doing a bunch of these quests, these artificer quests, and there was artificer, anyways. And so you clearly got to the point where everybody got a house for real cheap. It was a really nice building, and it's a really nice big house. I mean, even Star Wars: The Old Republic has a nice housing system, but it seems like so hard to do anything with it, and you're stuck with the floor plans they have. You can't do anything like you want to. That's what I like about like games like Rust, or even, well, not even Rust, that's has issues, but Minecraft or other things that have voxels where you can do more. So I want to see more of that. And the last thing is, it's kind of weird, but a lot of us who have played MMOs for a long time, we have dumped, it's interesting how it's still $15 a month for World of Warcraft, even from the beginning. And $50 a month today is a lot less than it was back then, but it'd be nice to have a lifetime sub option. I know that Cheppers Online offered that one time. I mean, actually, right now you can buy, I think, for $300. But he had on sale for like $100 off. And you think about how much money you dump into that game, every month, and you're like, wow, lifetime sub. Don't have to worry about it ever again. It'd be nice to have a lifetime sub option. We know not all games last forever. We also know that not all games we play forever. So I would think that if they had a little boost of a lifetime sub, it might be worth it. I just don't know. And if you actually were to calculate, I mean, think about it. If you take a calculator out, like I'm doing right now, and you got $15 a month, times 12 months a year, times 15 years now, the WoW's been out, that is $2,700.
Yep.
Doesn't even include the money I dumped into to do server transfers, to move characters around, people who have probably bought pets or whatnot. So I don't know if they were to offer like a $500 lifetime sub for WoW, would anybody pick it? I'm not sure. There are several games that do that, but then again, you can argue like Chapters Online did it, and yet that's probably because it's a low pop game anyways. So they're like, hey. Now, mind you, it's a free to play game. I mean, WoW is not a free to play game. It's free to play up to a certain level, and ESO is free to play. You get more perks if you sub it. Star Wars: Old Republic is a free to play game. More perks if you sub it. And so if it's going to be free to play, and if they're getting money off of their, their not expansion per se, but just the different perks you can buy with the cartel money from SWTOR, or if the points you get from ESO, then maybe it doesn't make a sense to them. But a lot of people just don't bother. They don't bother paying anything and just play the game. So give them a lifetime sub. Oh, that's my 3. Seems more current anyway. So that's it for our Escort Quest. We hope we gave you a good bit of experience. We led you to safety. You didn't crash off the cliff or anywhere. And an adventure of a lifetime. Check out the further adventures of Kennethan by liking and subscribing and watching me live on twitch.tv/Kennethan.